musician, if you were an actor, if you were part of the crew, if you could stand up, please. You need to be acknowledged. You need to be acknowledged for this film. This is like my family right here. So just, thank you.
So congratulations on the film. I'm Jason Garber, I'm a film critic from Toronto. So I just learned today, it's not Quincy, it's Quincy, right?
Yeah, so I'm not from Quincy, but a friend of mine who was in the audience today corrected me when I said Quincy 4 years ago when I moved there, and that was kind of the one rule to the movie. I didn't want people faking Boston accents if they didn't have one, because that's like every film critic's first thing they go to with a Boston movie. They said, all right, if we're not going to do the accent, you at least need to say Quincy instead of Quincy. Let's get that part right, if nothing else.
So who doesn't say that fiction films are educational? So this is
That's right.
So if we could talk about what brought you to this area, what brought you to this storyline, and what brought you to work with these wonderful people.
All right, well, I'll try to condense it for you because I know my family is dying to either go to bed or to the bar right now, so I'll try to be quick with it. But basically, this is a story. I worked with Josh Koopman on multiple films with my brother, so Coop and I have been making movies for years now. I've written a ton of crime films, bigger budgets than I could get. And I would get good feedback, I would get into contests, but I would never get financing for anything that I wrote. And as like a first-time feature director, I needed to write a film that I could actually make. So I wrote this around places, props that I knew I could get for free. I wrote it for actors who I knew would be down to do like a super indie production. We made this on a dime. But I also, you got to find something personal in every story you wrote. This, to me, this is about a lot of my friendships that I've had in my life. Nothing this drastic, obviously. It's a movie. The stakes are a little bit higher than real life. But, I've had relationships in my life where maybe I felt like Sean, and I have some wild people who were kind of my Jimmy. So, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Thank you very much. Who have you ever picked up a baseball bat to defend? Both in terms of performance, in terms of how you actually worked on this production.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Who have you ever picked up a baseball bat to defend? Whose back have you had in this?
Just this man right here to my left. See, that's how you do it. That's how you just dive in. No, Pete,
if we could talk about your working dynamic.
Yeah, no, actually, that was young Jimmy. Is he still here? Oh yeah, that's a question for this gentleman right here. He's the one swinging the bat. A legend. Amazing work. That was good.
But metaphorically, as it were, you guys are obviously working close together. We could talk about your dynamic and your working relationship.
Yeah, thanks. Pete is probably you hear hardest working, most earnest, sincere people, but Pete is all that, and he's wonderfully talented. He's a fantastic writer and director. I'm going to keep talking till he blushes. But the one thing I said the other day that is true about Pete, that I meant it when I said it, just like I do now, but he does this thing with anyone on set, anyone that comes up to him, and I'm sure people in his regular life, if they have an idea or they want to talk to him about something, he will listen. And if he thinks it's a bad idea, he still listens and he makes you feel heard. And then he tells you why it's a bad idea, because I have a lot of them. But the fact that he considers that, that's a tribute to what makes Pete so great. So I will show up to him whenever, for him whenever, until he tells me it's a bad idea.
And just to add, in terms of Coop and me, I was a 17, 18-year-old intern on a film set, and he was the star of the movie. And he was the nicest guy on set, and he talked to me like I was a human being. And it meant a lot to me. And then 4 years later, I bumped into him in a bar in Los Angeles, and we became, best friends since then. And we've had kind of a hell of a ride since then. But it's kind of a wild story. It's really too long. Maybe another time. But yeah, we've been through a lot together.
Could you talk about how much of that dynamic actually played out on screen? Were you actually writing, obviously, specifically for him? And were there specific movies that you actually drew on for inspiration in order not only just to tell the narrative, but also to tell a story of this scope in this way?
There's there's films that influence both the story and the scope. In terms of the scope, you look at movies like El Mariachi, like Clerks, like Following, like Medicine for Melancholy, like first features that people made with no money. So that was a huge inspiration in terms of the scope of the film. In terms of the
Citizen Kane, right?
Citizen Kane, absolutely. In terms of the narrative, yeah, you know, I love Dennis Lehane. He's one of my favorite authors of all time. Hugely inspired by his films, I mean his books and the films that have been made from them. So much so that I named the characters Sean and Jimmy, and it took me about a year of writing the script before I realized that Sean and Jimmy are the characters in Mystic River also. And at that point, I was just kind of like, fuck it, I'm just going to keep it.
Again, I'm from Toronto, that's around here, right? So I don't know.
That's right down the road. Oh, I'm sorry. But yeah, so, you know, Mystic River, Gone Baby Gone, Friends of Eddie Coyle was a huge one for us. That was definitely like at the top of the list for inspiration. Yeah, yeah, that's pretty much.
And if you guys could talk about, specifically helping bring the film to life.
Oh yeah, well, we met in school in our master's program, and Peter first approached me and said I had this idea, I've been working on it, and basically the whole reason why it came together was because of the community that supports Peter, and that's the only way that this film was ever going to be made. It's so true, and the fact that we were able to pull it off in 12 days. So, yeah, I mean, it was all because of Peter, all the work that he's done, the people who support him, and yeah.
That's an important detail. This movie was shot in 12 days. It was 82 pages in 12 days.
But there were long days.
They were, but you know what? Like, typically on film sets, I'm sure there's a lot of filmmakers out here. Sometimes you do like 16, 18-hour days. We're not really about that. You know, we were doing like 12-hour days. I think there was like 1 or 2 13, 14-hour days.
One
but really,
13-hour.
there was one 13-hour. People were getting a little cranky that day, but yeah, you know, we made it work.
Yeah, go on.
I wanted to jump in real quick and just give a shout out to Chinaza and Kate that played Sean and Tina in the movie. Specifically, they're incredible. They're dear friends of mine. But it's worth knowing that. So the 2 months leading up to the movie, we were, we were Zoom calling and talking about how we were going to do this, and we actually did a thing where we watched movies with frames of reference for tone, and so we watched together things like Point Break was my suggestion, but then Friends of Eddie Coyle was Pete's, and it was really kind of cool because I heard Brian the other night talking about how, I'm going to paraphrase and butcher it, but cinema is the machine of empathy, really, and it was kind of a useful...
That's Roger Ebert, yeah.
So Brian was, yeah, exactly. But I thought it was beautiful. I'm like, that's kind of, even though we were apart, we were communicating through watching other films, which was kind of beautiful. So yeah, I wanted to jump in with that, but I also wanted to give a shout out because I expected them until 8 days before filming to not do this movie, which was the other fun thing, because they had 8-week-old twins. 8-week-old twins. Like, she had just had twins with him 8 weeks before. So like, that's an incredible,
that's two children.
Everyone should know. And they're both in London right now, but that's amazing. Shout out to them.
And they didn't have she had. Like,
Right. Well, I don't know.
He participated, but she did the work. Yeah. If we could talk about this role, obviously it would be really easy for it to sort of fall into just pure stereotype. If we could just talk about bringing the humanity that you actually do and the strength of it.
Well, for me, I met Peter at a job that we worked together at, and we had a lot in common. And I love acting and whatnot. And Peter was a writer and director, and I heard that before, right? Writer and director, yeah, right. So Pete tells me this, and then he does that, and then he tells me that, and then he does this, and it just keeps going forward and upward until it comes to where we are right now. He's the only person I ever met in my life that said exactly what he was going to do, and he did it every single step of the way. I got 2 more minutes left of my 15 minutes of fame. Let me enjoy this. It's because of him. He wrote his part for me, and he told me just, he made it easy for me. Samantha and everybody I worked with, they made me look good. I didn't do anything. They did it all for me. I looked at him, I watched the movie so many times on the QT, I feel like he is that guy. And then I meet him, and he's really nice and really cool and really respectful and really reserved, but the character, that's how good of an actor he is. What he did on that scene. not who he is at all. It's the actor with his heart grows to him. A couple of things come to mind. I don't want to bend your all there. But I have to give a couple of things out. I worked with real actors, so we did like the screen test, and because of COVID, we couldn't do it live. We couldn't sit at a table, a round table, if you will, and read. So we did it over Zoom. So I'm like, yeah, all right, Zoom, all right, I can do this. I'm like, nobody can really see what I'm really all about. It's just a TV thing, and I'm gonna act already, right? Act like I know what I'm doing. Now it's going around, and how far into it have you seen the film is when I first seen it, so I have to pay attention to it. And guys are crying, fucking this and that. I'm going, oh my God, I don't want to do this anymore. It's my dream, but I think it's more of a nightmare right now. I can't handle this. Oh my God, people are crying at this end. I just do my lines. I don't even remember doing them. And then it ended. And then we had the shoot date. And he's going in. I said I was going to kind of work your way to the top with the little scenes first. But I only have this actor only here for 2 days, and we have to do the big scene right now. And I'm going, what the fuck, you motherfucker? What the fuck? Okay, no problem, Pete, in my, what he heard in my mind, you motherfucker. And then we did it, and wow, from that point on, it was just like cruising. I couldn't have done it without him. His words of support, his background, his whole thing, he lit me up, man. I love this man to death. No matter what. Anybody goes near him, I will hurt you. Thank you so much, Mr. Peter Horgan.
So basically, you cast against type, right? Like you found somebody.
This was a stretch.
Yeah.
This was a stretch for Anthony. Yeah.
So if you think of him as a bank teller or some sort of person with bunny costume.
That's where we met. Actually, was the bank where we worked. Yeah.
Talk about the casting and bringing everybody together, and just again, one of my favorite things in terms of like weird indie film is that moment in Ed Wood where everyone's around like, how the fuck did this happen? It's like we just followed you, right? It's like just get your friends to do what we want to do, and they're all there for you. You just talk about that feeling, that sentiment.
Yeah, you know what? On that note, there's another filmmaker. His name is Oogie Park, and he's a professor of mine and a friend of mine. And he said something one time that really stuck with me. He said, if you want to make a feature film, you need to be a force of nature. And he's right. You have to push it forward because no one ever cares about your project as much as you do. So, I'm lucky in that, I directed, I produced shorts all over New England for years and years. I've been doing this a long time, so I'm able to just write parts for people. I've worked with them, I have relationships with them, and they were just down for it. And then I met some people, too, that I hadn't worked with before that were just incredible. Sue Costello's here tonight. She was one of those people. I never worked with her before. Absolutely incredible. M.T. Dubai, another one. David Pridemore and I had worked a little bit, and I'm sorry, I can't name everybody. I've eaten like 2 things today. I'm dehydrated. But anyways, there's one, one funny thing that I think about when you ask that is Chinaza. So Chinaza is Coop's, one of Coop's very good friends. He's now all of our friend, but him and I, we still didn't know each other all too well when the movie started. And Chinaza, his career is climbing. Right now he couldn't make it. He's in London filming a show for Apple TV right now, Wool, with his wife Kate. They're both in it. He's just in another movie, Zach Braff's new film. And I remember the first day on set, I told our cinematographer, Mike Hechanova, who I wish he was here, and I wish the whole Urban Mouse team were here because they made this whole movie happen. But Mike, I told Mike the first day of set we were going to do that scene where we shot the one take that went through the house, downstairs, they rob the people, they come back. And that was the first shot we did on day 1, and anyone who knows filmmaking knows it's kind of a complicated shot. I thought it would be fun to do as the first shot of the day.
You also broke that news to your first AD on our first day.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to get to the heart attack you had when you had this idea.
Fun.
I got an idea, let's do a one-er as my first shot.
Yeah, we're about 14 takes into that, and I remember looking at Chinaza, and he's like, what the fuck did I sign up for? Like, I could kind of see it, and I was just kind of laughing at myself because I knew it was going to be all right. And we got through it, and we made our day, and we kept going. But the reason this movie was able to get made in 12 days is because when you have an amazing cast, they only need 2 or 3 takes. And that's really what made this movie happen as fast as it did, is these guys didn't need many takes. We shot it, we got it, and then we moved on to the next one.
And I've got to ask this question, even though it may seem redundant. You shot, obviously, in the midst of this COVID nonsense.
Yep.
That must have been fun.
Yeah, COVID.
If you could talk about it, and if you could talk about it.
Yeah, COVID, yeah, I mean, it's a pain in the ass. It's when you have no money to begin with, and then you have to spend extra money on that kind of stuff. It's problematic, but we were actually really fortunate in that it was one of the dips when we filmed this. So it was right when people started getting vaccinated. We didn't have a single COVID case on set, you know, which was really fortunate. You know, we played it safe. We had Andrew Gerzen was like in charge of like running that ship, and like he ran it. You know, he took care of that and made sure everybody stayed safe on set. Sam could probably elaborate.
I just ask, I'm fascinated about this as a producer's point of view. In some ways, this gets everybody's attention in a way that probably film sets were a little bit lax on. You have one thing to worry about and everyone's sort of coming together for it. But also in terms of pre-production, is there a weird fucked up way that COVID actually helped this production by allowing people to be comfortable with Zoom, by allowing people all over the country to do it, by allowing people to know you got 12 fucking days, if you don't do this right, don't follow the rules, you're screwed?
I mean, absolutely. You just kind of said it perfectly. We only had a specific and allotted amount of time, and if we didn't get it done, then we wouldn't be here today. So everyone had that mindset going in and was all on the same page. Everyone was on the same team. And so, yeah, you know, having masks on set was not awesome. Being tested every other day was not fun. And having to schedule that time and rotate a crew of 30 people through testing, you know, took time and effort and patience from everybody. So it was really important that going into it, we knew, like, we have 12 days and that is it. And so we all needed to show up, deal with it. And we never had a COVID scare on set. We never had any sort of delay. So I think that also goes to show that we had a great team.
And like, just to piggyback on that, yeah, and just hearing Sam talk about it was a unifier in that you never questioned anyone else's dedication to being on set. Like, they were all doing it. We were all taking breaks, like between takes, at lunch. Andrew was there. We were doing it, and nobody was like, you know.
Right.
We were all there. We were already working on it.
Tom Cruise didn't show up to yell at everybody.
Yeah, did drive-through CBS stuff. Everybody did it, but yeah.
Okay, cool. If there's any questions from the audience, just where we're going. Yeah, right. Yeah. Here's the big picture. Yep, gentleman right here has
I was just wondering about, obviously the character Phil turns out to be kind of a sick pervert person, and I was wondering earlier in the scene, specifically,
Great actor.
so earlier in the scene you have Jimmy point out his film collection, Woody Allen box set, Rosemary's Baby, and I was just wondering if that was all intentional on your part, kind of filmmakers who have.
So when you mentioned two of the most prominent Jewish filmmakers in history, when you talk about Polanski and Woody Allen, was it an overt reference to the pederasty of a certain character?
That's a hell of a question to throw at me. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. I can't say that it was unintentional. I'll leave it at that.
I believe there's text and subtext. I can't ever remember which one. I will follow up with that. I'm a big fan that you actually got cinematically the Marty debate. I'm wondering where you come down on the Marvel versus Marty film.
So to be honest, my whole thing is to each their own. If you love those movies, then that's great. So I don't judge people who love these. A lot of my coworkers who are here with us tonight, big fans. So I lean towards Marty's side of the argument.
Yeah, have Marty come here and tell me to my fucking face.
And there's a little bit of a subtle thing at the end there, because they bring up the superheroes, and then if you notice right before Anthony gets killed, he talks about bringing his kids to Disney. So yeah, I'm kind of more of a Marty guy myself. Yeah.
There you go. There was a question over here, or were you just yelling out nonsense? Any question? Okay, well, let's talk about let's put it this way. If you start, is there one? Sorry. Oh, I apologize. You were in the right. So her first, then you. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, me?
Yeah.
Beyond the other filmmaking references, in the first scene we saw a Jaws reference in the basement. I'm curious why you put a Jaws poster up in the basement.
There was a Jaws poster in the basement. If you have a specific reference to that.
The poster was already hanging there, which is the main reasoning for it. That was the Horgan house, which served several locations of the film. Also, I love Jaws, like top 10 movie of all time. It's great. So yeah, it was already there, looked good, just left it.
Sorry, I'm a film critic. So the Jaws poster actually references the fact that it's Cape Cod. And so, since that's where it's shot, so Amity is a metaphor for this part of Massachusetts. And so the Jaws reference is
That's a significantly better answer.
sorry. What is next for you? And I'm gonna add on to your question because that was going to be my next. What's next for you? And if you had to shoot this film today, how different would this film be? Having already shot it.
Anytime, I've never made a film in my life that I've been 100% satisfied with. I just think that that's anything. Every filmmaker's going to go through that. You're never going to. There's always going to be things you think you can change. So, I look at this and I'm very happy with this film, but of course there's things I wish I could do a little differently, but at the same time, I wouldn't trade that experience for anything. I can't imagine doing this over again. It doesn't even, I can't fathom it. But in terms of what's next, if there's any millionaires sitting in the audience, I have like another dozen screenplays. I have a bunch of crime features. I write a lot of crime, mostly, but I kind of mess with other genres as well. But I have scripts for various budgets. So the goal next is to go out and see how much money we can get for the next one. I have a film that I will be pitching. That's kind of like my number one that I would like to make the most. But realistically, it would take a couple $1 million, and I don't know if someone's going to give that to me yet. So I also have films that I can make for like $100K or $200K, and when they say, no, you can't get $5 million for this, then I'm going to come back to them with the next script, and that one it can be made at $200,000, and then there's less of an excuse for that. So I got planned out, we're definitely going for the $5 million, but we'll see.
I'll ask the deep, nerdy question. What is it about crime films that go back to the beginning of cinema? What is it that they say about the human condition that draws you to actually write them?
I don't know if I'm going to answer that entirely, but for me, I just, my entire life, I've always gravitated people who kind of do their own thing and just, not that they don't respect the law necessarily, but a lot of my friends and people that I love are people who have, gone in trouble in their lives and I so often think that like society looks at this group of people and judges them and you're a criminal and that's what you are. Whereas I see the whole person. So for me, I love telling crime stories and like really just showing the people and just showing that, except for Phil's kind of disgusting, but like besides Phil, I'm sorry, David, but besides Phil, there's no real bad guys in the movie. Even Anthony, Anthony the hitman and Damien, there's no real bad guys here. There's no real heroes either. And that's what I love, and that's kind of like the Scorsese thing, and that's where I'm stealing from him, is there's no real heroes in his movies.
And last question, what was the film you saw that made you think, I want to do this? And what was the film you saw that made you think, I can do this?
I don't know if it's a specific film. The best part of my childhood was going to like Hollywood Video with my father and my siblings, and we would rent movies, and then we would use the VHS recorder to record those
so you were
movies.
A thief.
We're thieves,
you were,
the entire Horgan family.
How
It's on
wrong
record
is
now.
the FBI warning, like, fuck you, FBI.
That's right here, the statute of limitations. I think we're all right. No, I don't know if there was a particular movie. It was Tarantino, Scorsese, Spike Lee, like those types of guys growing up that I would watch their films and I would be like, you're allowed to do this in a movie? Like you can actually make movies where guys do these things and say these things? That was foreign to me. So I don't know if I could really place one particular film. I think Goodfellas is probably like my biggest inspiration, and The Sopranos and The Wire are kind of like religion to me. So that's the stuff that motivates me.
And we might as well get, you guys are obviously all independent. Is there a particular work, or is there something that you saw that electrified you enough to decide, I'm going to suffer on 12, 13-hour shoots and actually get this shit done?
I was in the Army for a minute. Some of my Army friends came tonight. Military friends, shout out. Some of my college friends from forever ago are here tonight. Shout out to all you two.
Thank you for your service in independent filmmaking.
And I wanted to be an actor. When I got out of the Army, I was like, I'm going to go study acting. And I found out I'm really a terrible theater actor. Really bad. But I studied it forever. But there's something about the shape of my head that enough people told me, there's something about the shape of your head. And they were all cinematographers and DPs. And they said, you look good on camera, and the camera's confused by you. And so that's the honest answer, is that I had theater training, but there's something about the shape of my head that made me think I could do it, based on strangers telling me.
So Eraser.
Yeah. So, like, nothing.
Elephant Man or one of the ones.
But I've just always been inspired by filmmakers and the ability to change the energy in the room. So I appreciate you all being here. And I'm going to pass the mic, but just a special, anyone give a hug to Ellen Koopman? The last thing she saw me act in was Jesus and Godspell. This is a departure.
So you prepared me to wait for more.
Yeah. So my mom traveled very far to be here. And my love to my wife.
Stephen Schwartz, represent. Was it? Yeah, she has a mic. Was it something, that electrical energy when you actually realized that you wanted to do this the rest of your life?
Going to the movie theater. I love seeing movies on the big screen. And for anybody who's ever worked on a film and on set, there's just something about the energy. We would be exhausted because on top of our 13-hour days, we would then stay up and rework the next day for 2-3 more hours. And we'd be exhausted, and then the next day, everyone would be running around, and Peter and I would look at each other and we'd just be like, this is so much fun. Like, we get to do this. And so it's that energy that I continue to look for on the next project.
Sorry, sir, do you have any energy? Do you have some?
I'm going to do my best. I'm really tired. My mother would sit and watch movies, old black and white films, and she'd say, why don't you stay home and watch a movie with me? And I'd be like, it's black and white. There's no light blowing up and people aren't getting killed or no one's naked. It's not my thing.
You're watching Lavender or you're watching King Kong?
So I sat down. I'm watching movies like Angels with Dirty Faces with James Cagney. And I'm going, fuck, this is really good. Then she took me to a movie, and it was a theater movie, and I was like, it's in black and white. I don't know. Oh my God, Raging Bull. What the hell is this? I'm like 11, 12. And then on my own, I put a movie on. I thought it was a horror movie because I like special effects. I used to read a book called Fangoria, Special Effects and Makeup. And they had John Hurt on it, and he was playing a man called John Merrick, the Elephant Man. And I saw it with Anthony Hopkins. I cried my eyes out. The music killed me, the whole storyline. I always felt like that Frankenstein guy, I always had something inside me. I portrayed something else to my friends because that's the way I grew up, and they couldn't know that I felt like awkward and all that stuff, and I related to that, and it affected me inside, and I realized that movies aren't just a visual; they're an emotional, vehicle, and I got involved in it like that, and I've never done anything I loved until I did this, and I could have sat on that set and stood there for fucking 25 hours. And he gave me the opportunity. I'll never forget it. Thank you so much, Peter Horgan.
Thank you, guys.
Real quick, cast and crew. There's like an IFF Boston backdrop. We got a photographer here. If all the cast and crew could go to that, please. And then anyone else, I don't know where we're going, but we're going to go take over a bar somewhere in this neighborhood.
Alcohol.
Everyone's welcome to join us. Please do.
And more importantly, there's votes for this. If you want to submit your vote, please support this festival. Please go on social media, talk about the film. Thank you so much. Have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you everyone for coming. Thank you.